sun's up, there's trees everywhere, wind gusting everywhere, and hey, I didn't see you there. At least, I hope I didn't. Where do we go? Where exactly do we go? I mean, no one's here exactly. Not a manga reader, not a Steve, not a... Well, Four Lives still MIA anyway. Not a James S. Cassidy, not a Cursed Child. Just me. Yeah, just me this time. No one really special in particular. Okay, come on. If y'all have read the title of this podcast, y'all know how the drill goes. So let's not kid ourselves here. Of course, it's me, your host, LuckyG7, coming back with another My Hero Academia podcast after a while. It's been a super long time. And, of course, as you all know, can't really do these podcasts by myself, so I had to rope in the usuals from the Anime Manga Circle gang. So I'll just let them do their introductions themselves. Starting with the cursed one.
You don't want to talk trade? Oh, well, I can't call you that anymore. Alright, but hello everyone. BlueStarSaber here once again to do another My Hero Academia podcast with Lucky Chi.
He's also the cursed child.
And this is lkmnjh, also known as Steve. Really nothing more to add to that.
I was going to say, so enthusiastic there, man. Show some spirit. Plus Ultra, guys.
Well, forgive me. By the way, guys, since you can't tell the time when Lucky Chi uploads this, we're doing this at 11 o'clock in the morning, just so we can accommodate our English friend here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can tell from the sound of my voice, but I'm not exactly the morning person.
We should do this at noon.
Well, sorry. I mean, if you wanted, we could see Lucky Chi could have gone another hour or two, but oh well.
Hey, who's the one that said we should do this at 11? It was you. I was like, fine.
That's 5 o'clock over there, man. It's 5 o'clock over there.
Oh, also, not to mention, we tried doing this. Well, when I say we, I mean everyone else but me, because my stupid ass thought we wouldn't be doing this until next week. But again, since you guys can't tell the time when Lucky Chi uploads this, the day before, they decided to try and hold it at 11 o'clock at night.
On the opposite spectrum.
Anyway, derailing that aside, what are we on right now? If I were to talk about this arc with what we're about to dive into, at this point in time, I believe we are currently in the penultimate arc. And for anyone out there that needs proper education, penultimate would pretty much mean before the finale. So until we get further confirmation that there's going to be an epilogue arc, this is very much the second to last arc of the series. UA Traitor arc. Yeah, apparently the one specific plot point in the story that people want to say Koa Horikoshi forgot, it was never going to be brought up again. Well, y'all are feeling like idiots, aren't you?
Feeling like what now?
Total buffoons.
Yes, buffoons.
Every dated word in the dictionary because we're talking to 8-year-olds.
Are we antagonizing our audience here?
Hey man, it's open season. Everyone's fair game.
Well, if you're 8 years old and you're listening to us, you might want to reconsider that right now.
Bring in thy parents.
But yeah. Anyway, if y'all have been not a part of the podcast, but if y'all have listened in on the podcast pretty much since the internship arc, y'all know how the structure usually goes. It's talking about expectations, thoughts on the arc, positive, negative, best and worst moments, missed opportunities, predictions on the next arc, which we're currently in that at the moment, and then ranking the arcs in the saga, which for this one, there's only 3. Huh. Interesting. But let's start from the top. Initial thoughts after the Star and Stripe arc, which Blue and I kind of gave our thoughts on the Star and Stripe arc in the last podcast, but I know MangaReader and Steve weren't able to join for that one, so I'll let Steve start off first and share his take.
All right, so honestly, I didn't exactly have too many expectations. At the very least, I had hoped that it would have been a bit longer than the Stars and Stripes arc, but no, it ultimately it ended up being roughly the same amount of chapters. Honestly, after Stars and Stripes, I was like, well, where do you go from here? You just killed off a supposedly major character. So does that mean everyone's in danger now? Is the status quo about to be changed? And, well, the status quo certainly was shooken up a bit. I'll grant you that, but we'll get more into that as this podcast goes on. But yeah, no, I really didn't have any expectations going into this arc. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm gonna be the boring one here and say I really didn't know what to think.
You're good. What about you, MangaReader?
Oh, sorry, he just went out on me for some reason there. Like, what the heck happened? Yeah, I think Steve really kind of more or less cut to what I was gonna say about it. Because this ended with Stars and Stripes, and then this started at the end of Stars and Stripes, so there's a lot of twists and turns that happen in this particular setting. That some good, some bad. Obviously, we'll cover it later when we get to those parts. But well, My Hero is always entertaining. That's about it for me on the early summaries.
Yeah, I'll interject my thoughts on those too. As far as my expectations go for this arc, I don't really want to say they were like super high. They weren't super low either. They were like just kind of curious enough to see what direction we were going to go into, and ultimately you could say, yeah, we kind of ended up with the same amount of chapters for the most part. But that's all I got to say on the matter.
Let's see it. Do you want me to say my thoughts and expectations?
Sure.
Well, when the arc first, the one thing when the arc first started, I assume, it felt kind of like it was a direct continuation of the Stars and Stripes arc. In some ways, I kind of thought perhaps maybe it's the second half of an arc or something, like a sort of war preparation arc, if you will, or at the very least. But yeah, But other than that, I remember hearing about how, like, I think doing a band thing like the UA Sports Festival thing, and I thought, okay, perhaps they're going to do a little bit of slice of life thing. But instead, after like the first chapter, it was it was clear that that okay, this arc was going to address one of the longest plot threads that had been hanging on, which at this for the very longest time it felt like Koei had either forgotten or ignored since. It was brought up just right at depending on how you view it, the end of the summer camp arc, or just before the I believe Hoshiko raid arc, if you will. You know, the All Might versus All for One arc.
The Camino Ward arc, yeah.
Yeah, the Camino Ward arc. Sorry. Yeah, the Camino Ward arc. So
What was the arc name for that? Let me double check. Hideout Raid arc. That's what you were talking about.
Oh yeah, the Hideout Raid arc. Sorry, that's the one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it pretty much felt like let's see. It pretty much felt like let's see. It was a bit of a surprise at first, because it's like this like plot point felt like it was either ignored or just silently dropped. It was like, okay, there isn't a spy, but when you had All for One being, let's say, I believe as MangaReader going full on Eisen, if you will, about I always have a plan to Dobby. It's like okay, oh, we're actually going to deal with this, and yeah, so it's like, okay, we're finally having one of the longest plot threads being addressed. So we're going to find out who is the actual spy for All for One, because let's see. There were there were all kinds of guesses who the spy was, but there were like two characters in particular, which I'll probably get more onto in the positives.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yeah, but pretty much I'd say in many ways you could argue that this arc is kind of like the second half of like arguably a bigger narrative with like the Stars and Stripes arc, if you will.
Yeah.
It feels like rather connected into a much like two halves of like a more full arc, if you will. Kind of like how Water 7 and then a Slobby are like two major arcs that kind of make a bigger narrative for the CP9 saga. But yeah, it's like, but in many ways, it's pretty much like a preparation for war arc, really. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say now. I suppose you want to get on to the next bit.
That kind of brings us over to our thoughts on the arc, specifically positive and negatives, and y'all can talk about which one y'all want to discuss about first. It doesn't really matter too much to me, but I'll go ahead and say this. Like, the positive of this arc is that, like, kind of like what Blue said, you finally address one of the, what many want to say was the most, not most forgotten, but a plot point that Koei probably didn't dive too heavily into and just like left on the wayside. Or it was one of those things of like, it's too little too late. Because it's like, you saved this for like the very last part of the story. So it's like a weird basket to juggle. That's the analogy I want to use here. But what about you guys?
Well, I suppose a positive. Well, I've got a couple of positives.
Mm-hmm.
One, regarding the spy amongst them. This is actually one of the instances where the twist works in a manga.
Definitely,
because it comes from it comes. It doesn't exactly come the hell out of nowhere, but the fact that it's just, how do I word this right? If you've guys ever seen The Simpsons, there's an episode where Homer tries to write a screenplay and he goes, you always blame it on the shifty-eyed dog because no one ever suspects the shifty-eyed dog. Well, in this instance, we took a guy who's essentially happy-go-lucky and gave him a rather tragic backstory.
Yeah. By the way,
For Yuga.
By the way, if you have not read the current arc at this point, there are spoilers, so do not continue listening to this until you've actually read the manga. Unless you mind being spoiled.
It's been a little over 4 months since
Quite a few months.
If they haven't read it by now, then
Well, it could always be a new reader that's looking into My Hero Academia.
Yeah, sure, totally.
I guess. But okay, spoiler alert, it's Yuga. Yuga's the traitor.
Yep.
And yeah, his backstory is actually kind of sad. And unlike a character who we'll get to later on in the next arc, this is an instance where I think the twist works. Because this is a guy who we've spent since day one.
Oh, yeah.
And, we didn't really need to know much about his backstory from day one. Because he's always just presented himself as the shining hero, can't stop twinkling. Even though his quirk is admittedly kind of weird. What, you shoot a laser beam out of your belly button? Come on. But then, you read his backstory here, and it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Who knew there was such a thing as incompatible quirks?
I mean, he kind of indicated it. I mean, this is probably one of the times Koei kind of hinted at it without really hinting at it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he left. Okay, I don't want to say he left enough nuggets, but he left like little nuggets like here and there, saying like, here's a little bit of foreshadow, here's a little bit there and there.
Well, the way I see it, it's like he gave us kind of like the answer at first, and when like we were doing that little mini arc with like Aoyama just right after the Ritzy overhaul arc, where you had then Bakugo and Shelter doing their hero.
Oh, are you talking about the remedial course arc?
Yeah, the remedial course arc, and when that first cliffhanger with like Aoyama's shady face looking at Midoriya, people were beginning to suspect, oh, is he the spy? But then after like a few chapters of delving into that, it looked like, nah, it doesn't really look like it, and he's more of just trying to be friends with Midoriya. It might be trying to build up to the next arc, because Aoyama does have a few moments with Deku in that.
Which, honestly, it's actually funny, because I remember when this chapter dropped and you saw Aoyama there, I was like my thought immediately went back to that chapter. I was like, people will say this was kind of shitty, but I actually thought it was perfect.
But it's like, in many ways, it's like Koei is giving us the answer, but also making us think that it's not the answer, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a clever way to do it, and but also, the way he did the whole spy reveal is that he also did the clever thing with like a sort of red herring, if you will, because besides maybe Aoyama, there's one other character that fans were theorizing whom the spy might have been, and it was none other than, of course, Invisible Girl. Because you know how in the first chapter cliffhanger, when All for One was like going about how he has he has friends to spare for like to Darby and all that stuff with his plan. It cut with like a sort of invisible silhouette of Invisible Girl, maybe looking a bit menacing. And to be honest, MangaReader could probably say that I definitely fought for this, because it's like,
who was it? Toru? Yeah, Toru.
Yeah, Toru.
Yeah.
Toru.
Yeah, Toru the Invisible Girl. I thought she was the spy, because it's like because of all the other theory, because of some of the theories I watched on YouTube, and I thought, this kind of makes sense, but instead he used that as more of a red herring to make everyone like, oh, she's the spy, but then no, it's actually Aoyama in the next chapter.
Just calm down.
Feels very Oda-ish, and Steve knows what I'm alluding to when I say that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I thought it was like pretty well done.
I mean, all he did was take two of the characters that everyone speculated to be the traitor, and
Yeah.
basically made one of them the traitor. So
Yeah, but I feel like he did a good job at making us think it was one of them, but then no way, it's the other one.
Well, the problem is,
I'll be honest though. When I first saw that panel, I thought he was just that not necessarily she was a spy, but certainly someone he was going to kill in order to get the spy to do what he or she may want.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Fair enough. I'd say probably depending on who you ask, they either thought she was or was not the spy in that chapter. For me, it was, she's the spy.
I mean, I still remember for a period of time when people thought the principal might have been the spy, which...
The heck was thinking that?
There was people who thought that.
I mean, let's see. I think it's mostly due to the fact that, from what we understand of the principal's backstory of being experimented on in the humans, he had the he had a twisted personality from that time, or like big of a trauma. Some people you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah. But even I was like, that's looking a little bit too much.
But yeah, that was probably the most a bit of the stretch.
Yeah.
You're overthinking things.
Well, yeah, for real. Sometimes people a cigar is just a cigar, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Toru, though, that's my next positive. And it's admittedly just a me thing, but I was finally glad when we at least saw a glimpse of her face. I
was glad about that too.
No more of this gloves and boots. At least show us a little something.
Yeah.
Which eventually transcended in showing a lot of something. But we'll get to that when we cover the next arc.
Is that even something to cover, though?
That was arguably the most controversial cover in My Hero Academia history.
I said we'll cover it when we get to the next arc.
Shut up!
For real.
It's not even part of the
You don't need to explain it. We'll cover it when we get to the next arc.
Okay.
Calm down!
I'm sorry. Don't need to yell.
Now do you guys see why we call him the cursed child? Oh wait, no.
Someone's excited.
I'm wrong. The cursed lord. That's what he is now.
I was wondering why you were calling me the
so excited to talk about this.
Okay.
That didn't even happen until the next arc.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was kind of relevant to this one, the topic we were, but fine.
It is relevant, but it's not because, again, it has nothing to do with the story.
All right.
No, I mean, yes, you're right, and yes, you're wrong.
I just kept winning with you guys.
Congratulations on keeping your trend of interrupting me.
Sorry,
8 years of this shit, and every time I talk, he feels the need to open his mouth, which means I gotta sit through 15 minutes of him ranting about something before I need to get back to my original topic.
Okay, sorry, I'll mute myself now. Happy?
No.
Nope.
Anywho, so we get a glimpse of Toru in this arc, and I actually, handle, revealing someone who's invisible. Well, tearfully pleading to Izuku is certainly one way of getting at it, with having the light shine down on her in such a way that her powers of light reflection actually work against her. So I thought that was nice that we at least finally had a face to put with the voice, if nothing else. Right, that's it. That was my second positive.
Yes.
Like I said, it was just a me thing. I don't know what everyone else thought about
it. I'll say this in terms of how she looks. I mean, she looks fine. I'll say that.
Oh, you're out here judging, man.
That's it.
No. I'm saying because people have often wondered what Toru looks like as a character. So
yeah,
I believe there's
the fact that the fact that we got some, her eyes, her mouth, and a little bit of her hair is, it was enough to satisfy me. I didn't need to see her entire body.
No.
It's just one of those things. Okay, I saw it. I'm good. even if it happens again, I'll be fine with it.
Ah, man, I can't. Let's see. You're making it very hard to not talk about like the whole controversy in the next arc.
Oh my god, Blue.
Addressing it and all that stuff. But fine, I'll leave it to the next arc since these guys.
Blue, I think you're too obsessed with that.
I am not obsessed with it.
We just got the
Yes,
reveal.
you are. Guys,
All right,
you don't
fine,
see the Skype
fine,
chats.
fine.
You don't see the Skype chats. So you weren't around when he was when he
I
was
remember, I was
posting
like, oh my
news
Okay,
articles
okay,
about
guys,
this
knock
shit.
it off, knock it off. Let's see.
Man.
Let's see. All I did was share the controversy of like what's gone, and then one person ended up making an argument about how it was ridiculous.
And that person is not here.
How the bloody
next time.
thing was controversial.
I was just gonna say that one person is not here, so
Yeah.
we're good on that
Immediately.
part. Blue.
All right, fine. But anyway, yes,
We're good
I did like the subtle hints of what we got of Invisible Girl's face, which I will admit she kind of reminds me maybe a little bit of Uraraka when I first noticed it. But yeah, but in many ways, this was like one of the longest like sort of mysteries, if you will, for the series. Like at least one that wasn't really important, but would be kind of cool to see in a way. I think there's even like an Omake chapter about it where everyone in the class was trying to ask her, what does she look like? And when they tried to have her face melded, it was all puffy and all that stuff. When they said, what does her relative looks like? And it's like, they're all invisible as well. So it's
Yeah.
like...
It's in one of the early volumes. I know that. I don't remember which one.
Quirks are quirks, man. Someone kept it within the family bloodline. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely go back to when me and Blue reviewed that chapter. Not really sure what I said back then, but I mean, obviously thinking about it now, I mean, characters like this are obviously double-edged swords because on the one hand, you leave it up to whoever's reading creativity. So I mean, it gives you that ability to like, oh hey, yeah, people can look at a character and think, well, this is what they look like. This is what they look like. I don't actually have something planned essentially, so I'm just going to do something. The double-edged part of that is obviously that it looks like lazy drawing. It's just a way to save yourself from having to keep designing like 50 characters at once. Hey, all I have to do is draw boots and gloves. Make sure it looks somewhat accurate to body proportions, but, you know, boots and gloves. Simple. But, I mean, obviously, something's always cool about, like, leaving it up to a reader's imagination. So once you start putting a face to a character, then it becomes a little less, oh, well, at least it was a good design, or maybe some people weren't thrilled with it, or yada yada, but it was pretty much, at this point, like most of Koei's female designs. Kind of the eyelashes.
Lucky go, happy go.
I mean, you could think of it at that. Obviously, we never... I mean, the shot we got was just kind of a shot that he enjoys doing all too well, or all too often in this, and that's drawing teary eyes. Swear to God, every character in this manga at least cries once for some reason.
Yeah,
Characters
and
not
it's
allowed to
always
show emotion?
it's always the up close facial shots. Too.
Yep.
That man just loves gloating. Yeah.
Never a profile view of it. No, it's just front facing.
Yeah.
Man just
That's
loves
prevalent, like-
showing off that he can draw tears in people's eyes.
No, and it's not like every once in a while. Like, you at least get it like once every arc. So
Yeah. Someone, somewhere, something. You can always expect tears in this dang thing. So, I mean, the speculation still at the time, before we'll tackle your silly image controversy, was at least, you know, you don't actually know what color her eyes are. You don't know what her hair color is or anything like that. So it still was, you still got enough of an interpretation of, hey, this character, you can still kind of design it the way that you might think of her, but now you have a more approach if you wanted to, for whatever reason, draw these characters.
The only thing I could say is that if we didn't get that cover in the next arc, I assume that we would probably learn to try and get an idea about it, possibly from the anime adaptation of in the next season, if you will.
We'll see how they tackle that. Obviously, they could. I mean, I don't know why they would give it color because, I mean, she's still supposed to be invisible so it could just be whatever color they choose. For the laser, that's what her color should be in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, probably what they'll do is just. I
mean, they could tint it,
put her up against like a white background, and just have simple outlines.
That's possible too.
I could do that.
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look at the chapter page again. I don't know if that's how Koei did it anyway, or if he had like some of the background in there.
He had, if I remember correctly, it was just like half of her face was in bright white light that you couldn't see her eyes, and then the other half.
I'm looking at it right now. Here, I'll send you the page.
Oh, you're gonna just send the page. With that being said, oh, sorry.
All I'll say is that it at least confirmed that, at least for me, that her hair was of a light color rather than a dark color, because usually the females of the series are either blondes, browns, or blacks.
That's just. I feel like that's every anime, though, man.
There we go.
There's very rare times where I've seen the character. It's always red, pink, blue, or blonde, like you said. Sometimes black as well. Brown. Yeah, okay. There's a vast majority, but with Koei, it seems like it's blonde and black.
Let's see. There's also the occasional orange hairs as well.
Except for recently with. I don't know. This would maybe be technically somewhat further, so we'll save that. Or wait, no, this is beyond that, isn't it? No, we already did. No, never mind. So yeah, Lady Najin would have been in the. So yeah, her hair is crazy.
Yeah,
got some black and purple in there. I don't know if that's dyed or if that's literally her hair.
Purple. I think it's a little bit of pink here.
I'd say it's probably her natural hair since she's able to twist it into a bullet.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, he's been getting a little more pallety with his colors. So, obviously, we'll discuss that again, knowing what the colors truly are. And it's still kind of within the realm of what Steve just said in terms of colors. But beyond that, obviously, again, I mean, like the character itself is double-edged sword situation. I actually kind of appreciate those types of characters because, again, leaving it up to imagination, even if it comes off as lazy, is kind of a cool way to be a creator. So beyond that, I don't think not really much else happened up to that point or past that point until that was until they finally initiated their plan. So,
well, I'd probably say one positive is the fact how involved you got like Class 1A is when the revelation that Aoyama was a traitor. There's like when the principal kind of said, let's see, they should leave the room, but there's like no, they want to hear everything about what's going on and all that stuff. In many ways, this is one of the things I like with the Class 1A is like how after the whole Dark Hero arc, they want to be a bit more involved with what's going on with the fight with All for One after learning what happened with Midoriya. And
I will say I do appreciate that Koei did that because especially, and I know I always harp on this, but when you go back to the Rise of the Villains saga, it is one of those things where you're like, you kind of like shortening the cast a little and just focusing on like a few specific characters. So I do like that we're getting more of them.
Yeah. Anyways, it's like that saga mainly only had like Bakugo, Midoriya, and Shoto as like the three main characters.
And Shigaraki. And,
yeah, at least in terms of the villain side.
yeah.
That's always the... Yeah, but I mean, those are the 3 most popular characters. 4 most popular if you count Shigaraki. I don't know. I guess, yeah, the positives of this were obviously, again, I guess, well, the whole thing with Class 1A is also, again, a positive and a double-edged sword situation. But I don't know if you want me to tackle that then or later.
You can tackle it.
I guess you could talk with the positive aspects now and the negative ones
later. All right. Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, the positive aspect of that would be that, I mean, this group definitely has blossomed from when it first was revealed to be a class.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that, though, hinged on, again, Bakugo.
Yeah. I believe you even have All Might commenting on their growth.
Right. Because most of them, for the most part, kind of just, interacted to interact. They had your typical high school friend group situation, but most of them still interacted fairly well with just about all of the class. I think, again, the 3 that typically, well, actually 5 characters had some kind of, like, Deku wasn't necessarily, people were unknown on how to interact with him, sort of. Bakugo, they just didn't want to interact with anyone, and very few people wanted to interact with him. You had Denki and Mineta, Denki was a little more approachable, but Mineta's just, Mineta. Mineta's Mineta.
Let's see. Pretty much every girl's had at least one issue with him.
Yeah, and then has Uraraka really ever said anything bad about Mineta?
Actually, she's arguably the only one that hasn't said anything negative, really.
Or even interacted negatively with him at any one point?
Yeah.
Sue doesn't really say anything bad about him, but she definitely
does not approve of his behavior.
Yeah, she always uses her tongue to...
But then again...
Well, I do remember as early as the UA beginning saga that she pushed his head down the lake.
Right. Like I said, she doesn't say anything about him, but her actions always are fairly negative towards him. Yeah.
The only other thing in many ways, she's probably the girl that's able to work with him the most, really, given the sports festival.
Abilities. Yeah.
Other than that, it's the other kind of interaction I know is how she made fun of him for his reasons to go to Mount Lady.
Of course.
The internship.
But and then third one obviously being Todoroki, who kind of, I don't know if he felt he was better, but he knew he needed to be better. He just didn't really interact with anyone either. So I guess you could argue that Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki really were the 3 that hinged on the group outlook, but
they're the top 3 of the class in terms of raw power.
And again, a lot of, in terms of at least people talking about Deku, hinged on his growth in terms of his power set.
Yeah.
because he was like I said, he was the unknown of the group. They were like, is this guy even really good if he's not able to really like use his ability? Or who is this guy? He didn't even like rank.
Right?
That's it. I'd say in terms of school interactions, the main ones were like Deku with Uraraka and Iida being a trio.
But at the same time, I guess Deku was fairly popular because he was picked to be class president, and then he only handed it off because he didn't want to, because he felt Iida
tackle that responsibility.
Yeah, and he mostly won because arguably because Uraraka and Iida both voted for him.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. And
I mean, Iida, but again, that just proved that Iida knew that Deku was at least really good at his abilities. I think it was mainly because he saw him save Uraraka from that robot.
From the robot,
in the exam. But Yeah, our modest boy didn't feel like he was suited for class president role, so
Yeah.
gave it up to Ida.
Yeah. So but yeah, you had like the trio. Let's see, the girls, because all the girls just and being the 6 of them all end up being in a group.
Yep.
You had Bakugo with Red Riot, and then either Bakugo with I guess you say Midori and Shoto.
I mean,
Shoto.
Yeah, it was just with Bakugo, it's Denki and
Yeah.
oh crap. Now because you're only calling him by his hero name, that's all I remember him
Is
by.
it? It's Kirishima.
Kirishima. Yeah,
Kirishima. Yes,
yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Bakugo and Kirishima with the occasional Denki.
Yeah, Denki's funny because he either hangs with Mineta or Bakugo or
Denki's hysterical. Just
Yeah.
now.
Man, we need more
Gerard,
Denki in this dang thing. I don't know why he was kind
He had a
of
pretty bad. I do remember him having a pretty badass moment during the.
He's every moment he's been involved in is always badass, but then because he's also the comic relief, it just
Yeah, so his thing's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like he gets that moment and then 2 seconds later,
But I definitely say he had one of the best face reactions to Oyama being the spy.
okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'll tackle that in the negative aspect whenever we get to that. Because again,
Okay.
the whole thing with the group is again both a positive and there's always a positive and negative with groups. But yeah, I'll leave that up to everyone else if they want to either keep going with the positive.
Sure, I've got I liked let's see, Ayazawa's determination to still help his students and all that stuff, and how he's not expelling any of them, even Oyama, despite this revelation and all that stuff. And also, like I said, the Class 1A students really determined to take down All for One after this. And I do kind of like Bakugo's kind of comment about how we had 2 quirkless people here.
Yeah,
and it's interesting, and it's kind of interesting, Oyama's backstory, if you will, because it's in many ways, let's see, before they got involved with All for One, from the looks of it, it seems like it's given the connections with his family. It seems he could have a pretty decent, normal, you could say middle class life, if you will. But given the fact that he was born quirkless, that is in some ways, given in a society with superpowers, that feels like a sort of he was born with disability, if you will. I don't know if that's. I'm not entirely sure that's the right analogy to use, but or he was born different, perhaps more specifically. Let's see, and let's see. His parents were, really worried that he would be treated different, because how parents are always concerned about how society looks on their kids.
Well, that's kind of I can't say that's every parent, but that is the majority of the parents, I would say.
But yeah, okay. Most parents are kind of they always get concerned how their kids will fit in with society. But yeah. And when they fought there, and it was interesting when they fought okay, and okay, look, there's a guy that can actually fix this problem, but they didn't realize that they actually made a deal with the devil, if you will.
Well, I mean, when you have to second, I don't know what All for One looked like at that point, but.
Well, I'm assuming that All for One, let's see, given the fact he was damaged 5 years before the fence of the main series, I'd say he was probably in good health when Oyama was 4 or 5 when you probably got the quirk from him.
It's true, possibly. Still, if you're meeting a guy in a back alley and he's not really revealing his face, unless, of course, that was just, to not face reveal in that situation, I'd be very, very leery of anyone claiming to be able to give anyone a quirk.
But yeah. But let's see. So they thought they had stroke of luck, but I wouldn't be surprised that All for One just gave Oyama a sort of a quirk he deemed worthless, or didn't really care what kind of quirk or a quirk that didn't, or deliberately gave him a quirk that didn't suit his body. And then, of course, blackmail him when the time it comes. And I will admit, the way he explains the whole spy thing, it sort of makes sense why, for so long, that the spy subplot wasn't, discussed, because the spy was directly involved with All for One. Other members of the League of Villains didn't actually know who the spy was, and that's why you probably had that conversation with Darby, is they had no idea who the spy was. All for One did, and when he was, taken out of a picture for the entire saga, it's why, when the time that the teachers were discussing, we might have a potential spy, but given the fact that the main contact for that spy was taken out, the spy couldn't really do, spy work until now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a good way of explaining how it went down and all that stuff. But yeah,
It's also kind of, I guess you could say it's like Koa's way of being meta as yeah, I know there wasn't a lot per se when it came to the spy stuff, and it kind of being, put on the back burner, if you will, after All for One went to prison. So I think it kind of worked out in its own weird way.
Well, it's never, again, shady individual. I don't know why you would ever anticipate that he would do anything good for you. But, well, that's the price we pay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as negatives go, I really don't. This arc is too short to have negatives, just like Stars and Stripes was. So really, my negatives are just going to be more than nitpicky stuff. Okay, so, did we really need the chapter where Toga goes back to her house only to find that it's been ransacked, and then she remembers about her parents saying how she was never going to be a normal girl? I mean, who's to say? But me personally, I didn't exactly find that chapter all too compelling. We know why she's evil.
Yeah.
Do we really need to emphasize yet another point of how much her life sucks now?
Well, I suppose perhaps maybe half a chapter dedicated was a bit much, though I see why it was arguably sort of put in there with Darby giving her twice his blood to show despite the fact that Twice is gone, there's still a way to bring him back. Which on one hand does make me wonder if should Twice have actually died in the first place, but I guess it was more just to add to, arguably Toga's character, because, well, I'd say the best villains interaction is obviously Twice and Toga. I think they have the strongest bond, if you will. But yeah, I definitely say, but who knows? But I did kind of seeing just how society reacted to Toga's family with all the drawings on the walls, and it's murder in the family and all that stuff. It's kind of just shows you kind of how judgmental society can be on individuals that are just related to villains and all that stuff. Granted, I guess you could say we kind of saw that with Gentle's backstory. I think Lucky Chief probably remembers. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe it could have been done a bit quicker. That's probably my only thing to say about that. But yeah. Did I interrupt you again, Steve, or were you finished with what you were saying?
No, pretty much. Like I said, it was only the nitpicky stuff. Because really, there's nothing about this arc that's overtly negative about, or let me reword that. There was nothing exactly overtly negative that I saw or that I could complain about. Really, I don't know if we were going to give maybe one more League of Villains backstory as to why they ended up bad. Maybe, I don't know. Then at least Toga's chapter would be a bit more justified. But other than that, it's really only the nitpicky stuff.
Let's see. In terms of like, I guess one thing I could say is that I kind of wish the whole thing with I'd probably say this is probably better in context in the next arc, really. But I kind of feel like with the stuff with Spinner, I wish that was a bit more explored upon, and like who Spinner's opponents were going to be in the next arc were also a bit more explored upon in this like arc, because it's like the whole arc with Prejudice, I feel like could have been like a subplot with Prejudice could have probably been a bit more built up towards
Like
this
it could have
arc.
been, like you feel like it could have been set up here.
Yeah, particularly with like the two characters that were going to be the ones that would face Spinner in the end.
I could see that.
Because before like the whole Prejudice and race thing, I figured Spinner was going to fight Ida just because apparently Spinner was like the cross-play stain, if you will.
Yeah.
But that didn't really happen. Other than that, I suppose you could say maybe a little nitpick at Koei for doing a certain fan service moment.
Certain fan service moment.
Now, granted, it was kind of funny, but let's see. But like, if you look at the page,
Oh, I know what you're referring to. I was like, wait, what's he talking about? But yeah, I'm
There's a double page?
no, it's like a single page that, out of context, with the way Midoriya's face is, you'd be like, Midoriya's being inappropriate.
He's talking about 338.
Oh. Interesting. So yeah, back to my whole double-edged sword thing of the group dynamic. And I'm fairly certain I did talk about this when it was revealed or whatnot, but to me, I don't think Ayama really had many interactions or anything that was remotely. I mean, there was never any negative interactions, but it wasn't really any true positive interactions outside of maybe when the few friendly interactions he had with Deku.
It was.
I wouldn't really say that the dynamic. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it felt kind of crazy that everyone was like upset about this when
It got revealed. Yeah.
Yeah. When none of them.
I was gonna say like there was like maybe.
I'd say the two characters that interacted the most with Oriyama outside of maybe Deku was Pinky and Uraraka.
Ochako definitely when it came to.
I thought Toru interacted with him a bit, at least when they made their special move for the exam. But
yeah.
I mean, at least with Toru, it made sense when she was the one. But
yeah, that's a fair argument to make. Honestly, it probably should have been Toru going to Ochako rather than Toru going to Izuku.
Yeah, interesting enough.
Then again, she did just
walk upon it.
Yeah.
Right.
So probably a heat of the moment thing, really.
The only other person I can think of that you could have brought to her along is maybe Ida, because I think you had that one moment with Ida in being the class president left behind with Oyama when he was about to sacrifice himself for you're
talking about for the exam again,
But speaking interesting of Uraraka, one thing that this is someone that Lucky Chi might remember from one of the Discord chats, talking about how he feels like Uraraka would have been more interesting as the spy. Do you remember that, Lucky Chi?
That was actually I forgot about that conversation.
But yeah,
I did.
I mean, let's see. Personally, I'm probably more glad that she wasn't really the spy. I feel like, no. I remember now. The theory. It was a fun wild card theory that I just came up with. This was early on too, but it was this weird correlation I made of what if Ochako played a role that was similar to Terra from Teen Titans.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but that's a different. I mean, I know where you're coming with that, and that would have been interesting. But I mean, there's slightly different things that would have to have involved in that. So
Definitely.
I feel like you'd probably have to change Uraraka's backstory a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you could. I mean, there's nothing to imply that she couldn't have just been, lying about her backstory there. Or there's like a half truth going on, but obviously that wasn't the decision that was being made. So I mean, it is what it is. He picked Oyama. I mean, again, between the two of them, they were probably the easiest blank slates to pick between.
Invisible Girl and Oyama,
yeah, Toru and Oyama. But again, just like I said, I'm positive I discussed it with him back then, and I'm just going to still say it now that I don't know if the class's reaction kind of matches with what the reveal is supposed to be. I can understand them being upset that he did it, but I don't know if they should have been like, well, oh man, we were such good friends. We've never seen too many interactions. I mean, he usually, out just like Toru, was really relegated to the background. Some of these characters obviously are background fodder a lot of times. Like, funny enough, Zero is quite as popular.
That is true.
It's funny because Zero is seemingly popular, maybe. I don't know. But he's super background character.
I mean, his tape ability was kind of cool, but then, Black Whip came in, so it's like, what the?
Well, we don't need him anymore.
It's actually interesting when it came to this arc, because if you guys don't know, if you look at the extras, which someone was able to get their hands on and then made a Reddit post about it, but in that volume, apparently Koei revealed that the traitor plot point was going to happen in the camp arc originally.
I don't know if it would have worked there, though.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it that it was just like, oh, the villains somehow, despite this being a remote location for the summer camp arc, and I think they diverged it from where they were originally going to be or whatnot, but
the only way I can find the whole spy thing working earlier there is if, like, you were going to have one of the students from UA be turned out to be a spy and then become a regular member of the League of Villains afterwards, and you replace that one student with, like, let's see, I'm trying to remember his name. Let's see, the one Midoriya fought in the sports festival.
Talking about Shinso?
Yeah, Shinso. And Shinso became a part of, like, Class 1A afterwards.
Well, that leads into the other point that was brought up in those extras. It's that the camp arc was actually supposed to be longer, too. That's the other thing.
Longer? As in, like... So what? He didn't originally intend for Bakudo to get captured, like, all that quickly?
Well... So
obviously, they're not going to hint upon how long it's supposed to be, but...
Yeah. So the reason why it was cut short, which I think it's fascinating, and maybe some could say it's a little frustrating, but I think it's fascinating that he said it got cut because apparently the popularity tanked once the villains were introduced. It was one of those things where you're like, you know what, let's just wrap it up. Just one of those things.
Popularity went down for who, though?
For the series, like once the villains came into play for the camp arc.
Really? It went down?
Yeah, I was shocked about that. I was like, really? Oh.
People didn't want villains. They wanted a slice of life. That would be what was being suggested. People just wanted a slice of life, non-villain related shonen series for.
That's a bit weird because when a series based on superheroes, you're bound to get supervillains.
Yeah. And he also reveals that Oyama's involvement would have been more covered and in depth back then if it went with what he originally planned.
Even still, Oyama really didn't do much in that.
No, he didn't.
So it still could have followed the plan.
Yeah. I mean, see, the one moment he did have is like actually help save at least Tokoyami.
Yeah,
Tokoyami, yeah.
Yeah, but which I do like how Midoriya points out that despite him being like a spy, he still was trying to be a hero and still can be a hero. As like All Might realizes that this is their best shot of stopping All for One and all that stuff.
Yeah. So apparently it's mentioned that the camp arc was supposed to be like twice as long as what it was going to be. So I guess it would have been like what, an extra. How long was that arc? I'll double check. It's been so long since I actually looked at that.
It's been so long. Kana, I always forget that that's Lady Naga's name.
So it would have been 28 chapters then, because it was 14 chapters long. So, yeah.
So, you're just saying it was, well, you're just doubling it, not knowing how long it's supposed to actually be.
Right. So, like, let's say like 30, give or take.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, well, that would have definitely made something different, but again, just like it's like if Koei is both, again, positive and negatives or double-edged swords of Koei's writing is he leaves himself open for stuff to come back to, but at the same time, he never hits something hard enough to where if he starts talking about it, it leaves any like real impact.
Yeah. I mean, I could kind of see why he probably cut the camp arc too, considering that I think around that point.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm just saying that again, back to the class, somehow feeling like this big family again. Ayama did not do anything to.
I'd say probably since the fact that the whole spy thing was supposed to be with his character, there's not much to develop him afterwards because it's like, in a sense, you could say his story was put on hold with that brief one scene in the Remedy course arc.
Yeah. When you had the "I know" message with the cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this: it's good to know that got paid off because it was like. I mean, the way how Koei drew that panel, too, was kind of like...
Let's see, some people are like, did he figure out Midoriya's secret?
I mean, this isn't really a negative for me. It's just something I've seen from the community is that it's like, oh, so we're just having All for One be the puppeteer behind the whole traitor thing. And I'm like, well... It fits. I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing, but it does go back to a joke that that MangaReader made during the Paranormal War. Was like, what are we gonna have him be like an Eisen-esque type of person where he's like planning everything in the background? And I mean, I guess you could kind of say that's what happened here.
Okay, that was kind of.
I would have argued that this is turning out to be like in the Puss in Boots movie where Humpty Dumpty reveals that he was always there.
He's there. Yeah.
You
He's
never
in the
knew
cat
it, but
costume.
I was always there.
The cat costume reveal always gets me, man. The cat costume always gets me.
Yeah. See, I will admit, it does seem a bit of a stretch that All for One seems to have so many contingency plans after contingency plans. I mean, I understand that being the main villain,
Contingency?
he would have a lot more backup plans for all that.
I mean,
stuff.
when you consider how old the guy is too, because he goes back generations upon generations. Yeah,
Is he only 500 though? I mean,
He's
I guess that's old, but
I think he's, at the very least, he's around 120 years.
That's even less than, I'm not giving him any credit at that point. If he's 500, at least you could argue there's...
Yeah, if he's 500, then yeah.
Because from my understanding, My Hero Academia is the 22nd century.
Is it?
22nd?
Okay, at the very least, I know Quark Society has existed for at least 100 years.
Damn.
Hold up. I want this up now.
Because I do know that
Stupid wiki doesn't actually include it.
Okay, it says
100 plus.
100 plus. Yeah, that's what I looked up too. It's 100 plus.
Okay, I assume it's like 120, at least more than 120, because I know his right-hand man, Dr. Giraki, I think, said he was like 120 years old. But
No, I mean,
let's see. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's. I guess you could say it's kind of a double-edged sword that went that too, to a certain degree.
All for One is in Vigilantes as well.
well, yeah, it is a prequel. Yeah, it is a prequel to My Hero.
Well, I knew that, but I mean, how far back is Vigilantes exactly?
Vigilantes is like 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So it would have just been obviously when All Might had
if
just
I remember
succeeded.
correctly, it ends. This isn't spoiling anything for like how the story ends, but
Right.
I think it ends like I want to say 6 or 7 months before
The start of the
before My
series.
Hero.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So apparently, All for One had always had white hair.
Mm-hmm. But I will probably say at the very least, regardless of whether or not you think it's a bit of a stretch, All for One is with like having so many plans. I do like how he says like he's not completely bothered if his spy is actually caught, because it's like I have so many plans that even if this one fails, I got something to replace it with.
You know, when you think long and hard about it, I just saw this meme the other day, and maybe I'll send the picture of it, but again, this is a guy that had all these massive plans, had the ability to do all of this crazy shit, and All Might beat him through sheer power of punches. Just sheer nothing else, just punches. He just hit him really hard.
Well, to be fair, this is superheroes we're talking about.
Right, but I'm just saying this man had like 500 maybe different routes that he could have taken in his mind somehow for every nook and cranny or something, and he lost to a guy that can only punch really hard. This is like Dragon Ball level type thought processes right there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have all these abilities, and I'm just going to punch you really hard.
Well, to be fair, that's also taking inspiration from American comics.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Superman, you can't defeat the eye punch.
Yeah, Lex Luthor. Yeah, hi, Lex Luthor. You will never see Doctor Doom lose like that, though. Never.
You would not.
Doom would somehow make that a Doom bot if he lost.
Yeah, somehow, some way, Doom would just be like,
or in DC's case, every time Darkseid loses, it's just an avatar of him. It's not the actual Darkseid.
Or if it was Mysterio, every time he gets defeated, it's just a robot.
I mean, the Lamps comic books will go to make sure they keep their villains alive.
Right.
Or Green Goblin every day. Yeah, I was just in Europe.
The only other thing less realistic about that, in a very unrealistic setting, is the fact that it took him like years after, or maybe not years, but time after healing to find a regenerative ability.
Yeah.
He found it after being permanently damaged for life.
Mm-hmm.
Not beforehand, not knowing if at any point maybe he'd be in trouble. No, he found it after the fact that he became permanently blind for life.
Well, I guess you could say it goes to show that even a master planner like him, not everything works out in his way.
So he should know by now that this whole plan of his is going to somehow backfire again. Thus, in case he planned for this.
I guess.
That's the thing about writing, and we didn't say this in a stream, but it's just like I was saying the other day. This is the problem with writing people that are more intelligent than you.
But to be fair, I don't think it's ever gotten as bad as say Sasuke Aizen.
Or Light Yagami. Oh my god. You go writing his character, and then you have to write around him, like... Well, spoilers for Death Note, by the way. Seriously.
You mean Death Note is still ongoing?
No,
It's not ongoing.
No, but like, if you haven't read or watched Death Note, too bad. You should know this at this point. After L dies, you have to like right around Light's character just to make him get defeated.
Yeah. So yeah, intelligence is definitely always one of the easily most difficult. Most difficult skill set to write in any form of media, because you always have to either write the character as your level of intelligence, or if you write them far smarter than you'll ever be in life, you either have to make it seem so ridiculous that it just makes sense, or you have to sit your ass down and make it sound like it's intelligent. But in this case, I don't know if planning necessarily always requires intelligence, but it definitely requires like just an insane amount of. We're getting to Batman levels, and if James were here, you don't want to get to Batman levels.
Yeah, prep work. Always got to do the prep work.
Always got to do the prep work.
If you give anyone apparently in a certain amount of prep time, they are basically immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Batman with prep time could defeat Galactus.
I mean, you gotta have a utility belt on you. Just have all these little gadgets, and you're safe.
Well, it's either that.
You can just.
It's either that they're too intelligent, or they just always pull something out of their ass.
That's true.
Like
I said,
anti one for all spray.
I mean, does anybody remember when Spider-Man had the spider buggy?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was for like one issue, and I think that was to make fun of it.
Still, had it.
It was like 3 issues.
3 issues. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my mistake.
So like I said,
to concede to your point, MangaReader, it's either they're written so intelligent that it's ridiculous, or every time they show up, they're always going to pull something out of their ass, like an anti-all-for-one spray.
Right.
And I did say this in the chat, but I think really the only time I've ever seen it done where it doesn't feel like totally out of the blue and the guy clearly did something was Dr. Stone. I mean, Senku was OP in that sense, but you at least felt like he was a deserved OP type of character.
I would agree with that too.
That was his only advantage.
Mm-hmm.
He was physically incapable of anything.
Right. Mentally.
But mentally, he used his brain for everything, and it just was like... And I got to get back to finishing that. I already know the story's over and whatnot, but I want to fill in those gaps. So,
yep.
But, I mean, I'm sure there's other characters, if anyone ever eventually, and I doubt you'll ever find me to tell me this, but I'm pretty sure there might be other characters done well enough for an intelligence type of situation, but I can't name a whole lot of them on the top of my hand. Maybe Spider-Man kind of counts. Maybe. But Reed Richards is an absolute mad lad. Freaking Doctor Doom is insane.
Would Magneto count? No, can't say
Magneto. Not really. Dude,
I mean, Lex Luthor's stupid, insane level of intelligence. Dude freaking cures cancer just to prove that he can, just to give it back.
I'd say the 3 smartest heroes in Marvel would be Iron Man, Reed Richards, and Hank Pym.
Hank Pym. Well, no, I can't say Bruce Banner.
Oh yeah, I guess also Bruce Banner technically as well.
Maybe.
Yeah, but they're all different fields of intelligence. They're not like in. like Bruce's gamma radiation level.
I guess
robotics is Tony Stark. I think only Reed Richards is the one that's technically versed in most fields.
I suppose maybe the leader from the Hulk.
Then you've got someone like Joker, who, okay, you don't necessarily count him as like being super intelligent, but when you consider his schemes and how you handle certain situations,
he's apparently a genius level intellect because he invents his own his own shit too.
Yeah.
Well, it also depends on who's writing him too. It's either he's too crazy to be intelligent, so half the stuff he does ends up working, or he's too intelligent for his own good and can't realize, maybe I shouldn't, disregard Harley Quinn's help every now and then.
Right.
I could say, you could argue that the Heath Ledger Joker is always like one step ahead of like Christian Bale's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but again, that's just terrible writing at that point. But
you called The Dark Knight terrible writing, MangaReader.
Yeah,
I've often
the movie's fine, but the plot. I mean, you can definitely.
Yeah, like if you really look at it, The Dark Knight is mainly Joker's movie more so than Bruce Wayne's movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm just saying that. Be careful, MangaReader.
You could argue that Bane was Bane's movie, not Christian Bale's Batman movie.
But yeah, I was just joking the fact that
I know
will probably have to deal with the angry Batman fans.
Come on, man! It's been almost. Wait, when did that come out?
Dark Knight Rises.
2008.
2008. It's almost been another 5 years, and it'll be 20 years since that movie. If people haven't moved on from it by now, then damn, that is just super high on their movie list for some reason.
For real.
I mean, to be fair, you still have people talking about the original trilogy and prequel trilogy for Star Wars, so yeah.
Well, Star Wars is different, Blue. Star Wars is completely different because that is in itself its own franchise.
Yep.
The movie, I mean, I don't know if the books came first. Probably not, but maybe.
I think the books came second, if I remember correctly.
The movie verse is essentially as far as I'm aware, the canon verse. So, So yeah, you're gonna have people always talk about the 6 movies and how bad the prequels, except for maybe the third one, were.
To be fair, the reputation of the prequels has kind of changed in recent years.
Only because the sequels aren't that great.
Yeah, wasn't it great when Izuku came and fought General Grievous?
Grievous, I know, right? I don't know how much further we're going to derail this, so...
Right, guys, perhaps maybe we should get to Lucky Cheese next topic, like a best and worst moment of the arc.
Okay,
fine,
best
whatever.
Worst moments. That's when we finally got the trailer reveal. Worst moment. Worst is nitpicky for me. If I'm being perfectly honest, it's nitpicky.
How dare you? This is a flawless piece of media.
What would the most nitpicky thing be?
You don't even know?
I guess I'd piggyback off of Steve and say Toga's situation, but that's it.
Nitpick that.
For me, I guess I'll just do that. Let's see, just call back to that Hatsune moment from a previous arc. I felt like that was like perhaps a bit unnecessary. But granted, you got a very out of context page technically, but still. Let's see. I figured it was like kind of pointless. Well, I guess I should be. Let's see. Like MangaReader probably like remembers. I thought this was going to lead to another Uraraka and Deku moment, but no, that didn't end up being the case. But granted, they did have a moment.
Actually, they did have. That does happen at the end of this.
Yeah, they did have a moment, but not one of the jealous moments, I guess you could say, which is probably for the better, really.
Yeah.
A more serious moment where they're having talks about their respective arch foe, trying to save them.
I did like that. That's actually true.
In order for a jealous moment to have even occurred there, Deku would have had to have been a part of that fight.
But yeah, But I'd say probably for me the best moment would probably be after Deku comparing himself to Aoyama, just saying that you can still be a hero. I feel like, let's see, this is like arguably Deku's character. It's like no matter what someone has done and all that stuff, he'll still try to help them.
A corny callback, but still a callback.
But yeah. And also the fact that, let's see, he used All Might's words. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the best moment from the arc, besides the revelation of the traitor. But yeah.
Young man, you too can be a hero.
I don't know. For me, just like Stars and Stripes, this arc is just really short to really say anything that anyone else hasn't already said, right? So,
yeah.
I'm gonna say best moment was Aoyama's backstory. Worst moment was well, again, this is just nitpicky, right? There's really no 8 chapters. There's no worst moment. You can't pick a worst moment out of 8 chapters.
I mean, if it comes to like the next arc, there's one easy I can pick, but
yeah, but so again, for me, the worst moment is just Toga's chapter.
What about you, Mark?
Shoot. I mean, was their plan still technically counted in this? Or is that really, does that count really more towards the next? I was thinking of using Aoyama as bait. I thought that was...
They talk about it in this thing.
They hint at it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you mostly, due to the fact that you had Aoyama's family got the earphones thing, you had that sort of like a mute thing where Aizawa explains his plan.
Right.
Yeah, that's more of like hinting. They're kind of hinting towards that for the next one.
Right. I guess the positive then is, damn, you're right. 8 chapters really doesn't give me a lot of narrowing down situations.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do there.
I mean, I guess. Shoot.
Like I said, when you're dealing with 6 chapters, there's really not a lot.
Is it 6 now? I thought it was 8.
Oh, it was 8. 8, my bad. Yeah, the last one.
We're not counting 2 of those chapters now, apparently. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, it's 8 chapters. Yeah, when you're dealing with an 8-chapter arc, there's really
Fine, whatever you guys said at this point probably is where I'd stand at this point. I mean, I kind of already gave my positives and negatives anyway. I mean, take that from what you will, I guess. I like the face reveal. I don't know if that's the positive. But...
You can have that.
That's the best moment.
Yeah. The best moment was finally seeing some character that we had no idea. Well, yeah, we had no idea what they looked like, but relevance really mattered. I mean, I guess the best moment would be knowing Aoyama's backstory.
Aoyama's backstory, yeah, definitely say that.
Just because of we already knew how much of a dick All For One is. I mean, I guess it just cemented it more.
Starting from,
I guess the negative, like for me, still is probably just the reactions don't necessarily match what the emotions were supposed to be. I mean, well, the emotions don't match what should arguably be the reactions, but I mean, it is a shonen manga. I don't really half expect the class to be angry at him, but I think anger would have been a little more appropriate than feeling upset. But what do I know? I'm not a teenager anymore. Maybe teenagers are sentimental these days.
Let's see here. I guess we can move on to missed opportunities, which there's not really much.
There's 8 chapters. What missed opportunity?
You know, Lucky Cheese, sometimes you just write yourself in a corner when you come up with these topics.
You don't even have to talk one
for short arcs.
That's true.
Like
There is no missed opportunity. Let's
missed
leave it at that.
opportunities in 8 chapters.
Yeah, I know. I was honestly about to joke about that myself. I was like, for an 8-chapter arc, there's really not much. So,
anyway,
all right, here's a missed opportunity. Make it 5 chapters.
Add a couple more pages.
And anyways, Lucky, I think you'd probably better combining missed opportunities and what you could have improved, really, because the only thing I could think of is perhaps like a kind
of... Well, where it could have improved is simple. It's going off of what MangaReader said. A different variety of reactions from the class. That's
at the very least, some resentment. But,
let's see.
They've been hanging out since day one, so I'll give them a pass for easily forget.
So arguably a bit more like Bakugo, if you will. Sorry, did I interrupt you again, Steve?
Totally. Absolutely. I'm not Steve.
No.
Yes, you totally interrupted Steve.
But yeah, because, Bakugo was kind of pissed off when he found out Ayama was, the spy that got captured.
I mean, that's just typical Bakugo reactions,
Bakugo in general, though.
Yeah, but it's just have more than just Bakugo be the one reacting that way. But yeah, other than that, I'd say the ones that you probably could have done more highlight on is like the 3 characters that the 3 or 4 characters that interact with Ayama the most outside of Deku. Like I kind of said, Ida, Uraraka, Invisible Girl, and I guess Pinky.
I'm just, when you think about it, it's like everyone somehow just felt like, oh, he's only doing this there's got to be a reason behind it. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously at this point, if you're all going to be sentimental like that, clearly there's a reason behind it. So whatever, but they should have figured that out after maybe showing some signs of, well, this sucks. But then I think back, they weren't even mad at Deku and they weren't even mad at their other when
Deku left.
Well, not that, but I'm talking about when they went to rescue Bakugo. None of them were mad.
That's true. Yeah.
If anything, the only one that was, I wouldn't say Sue was out of character, but her implication that what they did wrong felt really wrong. But
Sue, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that I knew that was Sue. That was all like, well, you guys did what villains would do. It's like, how is saving your friend doing what villains would do? Yeah, you broke the law, but you were doing it with a good cause. But again, the whole rules of this universe are absolutely jaded. So I don't know how many more times I can go ranting on that aspect.
Yeah,
I'll say this, MangaReader. If you haven't read Vigilantes, I know Vigilantes dives into that a little bit.
I've read the first volume and then haven't really been able to keep up with it since. But
yeah.
But who knows, MangaReader? At some point, maybe I or Lucky Chi will do a stream or podcast. We're discussing these very topics.
Where all these things, and I'm just sitting there talking about this whole aspect of it again for no reason.
Yeah. But this time you have like a more organized version of it.
Let me write my 50-page report on this situation.
But yeah, the other thing I could probably say for like missed opportunities, things that could have improved. It's kind of like what I was alluding to earlier, with like the whole spinner subplot or build up for the next arc.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah,
I think that too.
Other than that, let's see. There's a few other battlefields that have like certain subplots, which may or may not actually get addressed properly. But I feel like maybe you could have built up to that. Particularly like from the looks of it, you have like Ashida / Pinky dealing against Midnight's killer. I think was one. And like Ayama, once he betrayed, once he helps out the heroes, there's like an assassin targeted for him and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So build up some of those villains, or introduce some of those villains, or even build up some more of our own characters a bit earlier, just so that there might be a bit more. Let's see, build up to like what's going on, sort of like reveal that All For One wants Gigamakia released and all that stuff. Or like he's planning to release Kurogiri. But yeah, stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I guess you could go with that.
Be a bit more war preparation type of arc, if you will. That's arguably all I can really say, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you got in you, man?
That's all he's got.
That's all he's got.
Well, in that case, let's get to. That's funny when I get to this next part, because if this was Rise of the Villain Saga, woo! This would be a fun time for me, MangaReader. Well, MangaReader came at the very end. Yeah. MangaReader, BlueStar, and especially For Life. But I don't think it's going to be that tricky. You're ranking the arcs in the Final Act Saga. And I'll go ahead and say it first. For me, it's UA Traitor arc and Star and Stripes. That's what I would put it at.
So just a reverse of how you... Well, okay, not a reverse, but almost semi-reverse of how you have it listed.
Mm-hmm. I'd probably say the list is the same for me, because, like, the Dark Hero arc, you've got quite a bit of focus on Deku after the whole war now, so it feels more like a full-on proper arc. Yeah. Only real criticism is that it could have probably gone on a bit longer, I'd say.
Like one more volume, I think.
Yeah, and... But it's like had some quite nice moments, like Deku's like hero look, actually using the mask for a change. Let's see, the introduction of Lady Naga and like his fight against Class 1A, and also post like All Might's conversation with Stain, which I'm curious to see where that's going to lead up to. But yeah, that's probably another thing you could have added to the UA Traitor arc. Do something with Stain maybe, but yeah, and. The other thing is, like, the UA Traitor arc, given the fact that it's more focused on the characters of Class 1A and all that stuff, I'd say, and even a little bit of the League of Villains preparing for war, I'd say that one is better than the Stars and Stripes arc, because it's mainly just overall Shigaraki versus...
Yeah, I was going to say, the Star and Stripe arc is very much just Shigaraki versus Star and Stripe, which wasn't bad. I don't want to say that was actually bad.
But the biggest problem, of course, is the fact that it feels like it's a character that came out of nowhere, and it feels like the sole purpose of that character was just to weaken Shigaraki from the ultra-regenerative ability that I think Corey at this point probably realizes that makes it nearly impossible to kill him. I mean, granted, I would definitely say these last two mini arcs, they both feel like they could have been a bit more built more expansively, particularly like the Stars and Stripes one for more of the international world reacting to what's going on in Japan, however heroes want to get involved in stuff, possibly being like, is this going to lead to a global conflict, or is it just going to be isolated in Japan? And, like, the UA Traitor one just building up more of, like, the upcoming final war, if you will. But, yeah, that's just pretty much it. So I guess it's now MangaReader and Steve's turn.
Oh. I don't know. It's kind of hard to rank these arcs. Pretty much, they just... if I really have to rank them, it'd still be Lucky Cheese order. Dark Hero on top, Stars and Stripes next, and the Traitor arc at the last. And really only because Dark Hero is because it's one of the rare instances where you get to see a mangaka expand their horizons with all the inking done to make Izuku look so edgelordy and badass. Like he didn't need to draw him all tattered and beat up like that just for us, but he did it.
He did it.
For that, I'm not an artist, but I know how hard, how hard drawing is. So when you have to include little details like that, that's just
especially on a week basis, like
yeah, that's just something I'll always respect artists for doing.
Which partly makes me wonder if that's why he ended the arc quicker. It was because he's like he didn't want to keep drawing Midoriya that way. Sorry.
Not only that, but also his poor assistants having to No. It needs to be this level of black, not that level.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But so yeah, and really the only reasons I place Stars and Stripes and the Traitor arc in second and third is because they're just so short. I mean, it's great that they're concise and they get to the point, but a little more meat in the bones is all I'm asking.
It's very much like which arcs was it in like the very beginning? It kind of reminds me of the entrance exam and the quirk apprenticeship test arc. Those were like 3 or 4 chapters. So that's even shorter than that. Yeah, I guess you could say like early UA beginning saga arc. No, actually, I found the perfect. Since we mentioned it earlier, it's kind of reminiscent to the remedial course arc because that was like 6 chapters. So yeah, it's kind of in that ballpark.
Are we ranking it for all of them or just the 3?
Just these 3.
I was gonna say because I don't remember my list.
If you want to rank them all together, be my guest, Manga.
If I want to rank every single one up to this point,
to be honest, that feels like
if we're going to be doing that, then Dark Hero arc is now in the top 10.
Well, yeah, of course.
But honestly, that feels like something more you do for a live discussion stream, really.
Oh, okay. Well, then, what are we going to do when the series ends? We're going to have to literally give our list of best arc to worst arc, and then single-handedly discuss why every single one is in their individual position.
I think we'll do this whenever. What's this arc called? The Final War arc. Whenever that ends, we'll do our final rankings of these arcs in the saga, which, honestly speaking, is only going to be 4 arcs in general, so it's not going to add too much, I would think. And then we'll do a special podcast for like all the arcs as a whole.
Oh, goody. Well, then this is basically fairly easy. I mean, Dark Heroes number 1. Stars would be number 2, and Traitors 3 at that point.
Ooh, interesting. You had the opposite. You swapped them around between the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Stars and Stripes had a lot more going on with it than Traitor. So, I mean, Traitor set up fine, but nothing about Traitor really. I mean,
stands out.
Yeah. I mean, you could skip to the next arc, and somehow I would feel like I knew what was going on. Somehow. All I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, Aoyama, whether we like it or not, he was always pegged when they first came out saying there was a potential to be a spy in the UA facility. He was always pegged as the number 1, and lo and behold, Obito was Toby.
I was just
there we go.
To that. I'm not even joking. I was just about to be like, this kind of reminds me of Obito.
It's either the manga just decided, well, everyone's been speculating it, might as well just make it real, or maybe it was always the intention, but there you go. Yeah,
I would have actually laughed if Kishi actually had it to where, it's Obito, and then the face comes off. No, it's actually.
I give them more credit if they didn't go with what our fan theories were.
What was it? Izuna? Yeah.
I would have been absolutely amazed if it were anyone other than the 2 people that we had said could have possibly been the traitor.
Right.
The only other one I could think of is that they were thinking that Obito might have been a dark Naruto from the future.
What?
I don't even know how that would have worked.
I don't know. I mean, that was just one of the crazy wild fan theories I saw.
I mean, nowadays that could work given the state of the Naruto Boruto series, but if you want to kill your world building any faster, I guess a future version would have, I guess, counted for something.
Sense.
like I said, if you want to kill any sense of world building, that would have been top choice number one.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime you ever think that there's someone not available to be a traitor, then that is probably the one character that you should maybe put on the top of your list to be the traitor.
It's like,
Unless it's the main character, and then you're kind of screwed. So I guess you can't have Izuku be the traitor unless he's unknowingly being the traitor. Like somehow they planted like some form of
like, I'm the mole. Wait,
some sort of microchip or something inside
like,
of him.
What's it called? It's like what Young Justice did in the first season.
To be fair, if based on how they drew the doctor that told Izuku that he was never going to have a quirk, if he in turn was somehow the, All for One's right-hand man, that would have actually been quite a plot twist if he had, implanted a chip in Deku, somehow implicating that All for One did, in fact, pre-plan for everything, knowing that one day this child would somehow be gifted. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, the theory behind that, what the doctor mean that, is the fact that that doctor helped steal Midoriya's quirk, and that Midoriya was actually All for One's child.
Like I said, it doesn't have to be fan theory, but if he did somehow do that, and Deku was the inadvertent traitor, that would have been absolutely ballsy, and I would have congratulated him for that.
That would have been pretty ballsy. I'm not gonna lie. I would have been like, wow, that's...
Actually, I probably would have been like, how the fuck would you have ever planned for that?
Yeah, right.
But still, it would have been way better than any of the fact that we, more or less as a fan base, maybe not us in general, but just as the fan base in itself, was like, well, Ayama's the traitor, or, well, Toru's the only one that we never really see at all. She must be the traitor.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, one of those two were the only options that we had, and Koei just decided, well, we're going with the one that I basically hinted at and adverted to, but did not actually follow through with, and now just decided to go back to. So, whatever. Like I said, that's why, for me, the traitor arc is towards the bottom of the three arcs here, because I could just get past it. I wouldn't know Ayama's backstory or why he was the traitor, but I would know he was the traitor. At least with Stars and Stripes, you got a glimpse of just, even at 98% of his power, you could tell that Tomura was going to be an absolute disaster to fight against.
And I mean, okay, and not to jump ahead into, the next arc, which we'll save for that, but that arc does set up for what is to come for him.
Right. And I said that either, did we already do like a cast itself on that arc, or was I even a part of that arc?
It was just me and Blue Star.
I kind of expected that. So what I did was then with Blue was just the chapter review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That regen ability is, again, still the most. There is no weakness. Every freaking quirk in this series has a weakness, and that regen quirk has no weakness that we know of. Outside of maybe if you like literally cut the head off, and then I guess maybe you can't regenerate at that point. But
unless if you decapitate the head and like, nope.
Well, yeah. Well, obviously, if the brain is what causes the regeneration, then fine. I guess that's the one weakness, and I mean that's typically most regeneration weaknesses. But I mean, this man survived basically being a skeleton, so clearly it has nothing to do with how much damage you take.
Well, it's obviously we probably obviously know why Stars and Stripes existed then with her New Order quirk.
Yeah.
Kill that regeneration.
Apparently it still exists, though, because, I mean, he's still kind of regenerating.
Kind of.
Okay, it's not more like his evolution stage or something.
Maybe that's what that is at this point.
Kind of.
But I think I thought I vaguely remember them saying in one of the chapters regeneration. And obviously, now that he has his quirks fully available to him, I guess we'll know for a fact. Although now I'm curious about other things, but we're not even discussing that, and that's not even for this particular discussion. So,
it's
but
a
yeah,
preview for what's to come.
it's a preview. Yeah, like I said, the Stars and Stripes at least gave us like this very good indication of just how kind of ridiculous Tomura can be with All for One quirk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Plus, we got introduced to Stars and Stripes, even though I'm surprised we were given an introduction to a one-off character.
Especially from a movie where she was just in for that brief instance.
Right. And yeah, she wasn't like... Yeah, well, that was just the opening cutscene of that movie.
Yeah, it was.
And it wasn't even... We weren't even given what she was, so I'm just surprised that ultimately amounted to something. But again, one-off character. Thankfully, her quirk somehow was able to, be stolen but not stolen, so that would have just been insane. Because I'm sure somehow under Shigaraki, Tomura, All for One, they would have been able to neutralize just the 2 quirk rule and basically make it invincible. Which would have been like, how the hell is Deku winning this?
For real. By that point, it would have been like, forget the whole 6 quirks debate that was going on. How do you take them out?
We're getting to how are Sasuke and Naruto going to defeat Madara situation.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get to that level,
oh boy,
then you're basically I guess we have to start introducing aliens to our series.
Oh please, no. Please no. Let's not go there. I'd rather take the devils from hell approach than
alien life forms that were always amongst us.
To be fair, the alien villains thing would probably be much more believable in a superhero genre than a ninja saga.
Actually, now that I think about it, devils in a hero-esque setting could work. It's not uncommon.
Ghost Rider?
Yeah. I was gonna say Ghost Rider's a thing, so you could make it happen.
For all you Invincible fans out there.
Well, remember, aliens can also work in superheroes as well. After all, Thanos is arguably one of the most popular villains thanks to the MCU.
Are you gonna just ignore the fact that Superman is an alien?
Oh yeah, that as well.
I think we've pretty much talked all we could about.
We somehow extended 8 chapters into an extra 30 minutes.
Yeah. Which it's kind of funny because we were talking about this yesterday. I was like, I don't see this going as far as over 2 hour plus. So
we're at 2 hours almost. Let's get it down, baby.
But with that said, you guys, that's pretty much it on this so far supposedly penultimate arc in My Hero Academia. So
7 more years, baby. 7 more years.
Well, I'll say that. I don't know if it's 37. No, but so depending on how things go with the final war arc, that could very much be the last arc of the series, or we could have one tiny short epilogue arc.
Short.
Even if that's the case, we'll still include that with this.
Dude, we definitely need a second school festival arc. People want to see that Deku vs. Bakugo finale. Deku has to cement his number 1 hero status.
Who knows? That could end up being a graduation arc, maybe.
That would be actually kind of interesting. But then once again, we're hitting a very illustrious manga at that point. If we're having the the final battle be amongst rivals.
You're right. But with that said, you guys, that is going to be it on the UA Traitor Arc podcast for More Hero Academia. I'm your host, LuckyRave.
I'm lkmnjh, also known as Steve.
I'm BlueStarSaber.
Sega is MangaReader.
And Blue is the Cursed Child.
Ow!
Plus Ultra!
Plus Ultra!
Plus Ultra.